We're live?
Right. Good morning, everyone. Nice to see a lot of people here. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Nick Madison. I'm the chairman of the board. First thing we're going to do is call roll. I am present. Mr. Nigro. Allison Walsh.
Here.
Sarah Reginelli.
Here.
Alejandro Polino.
Present.
Jasmine Higgins.
Here.
And Danielle Melendez is an excuse. Okay, the next order of business is the review and approval of the meetings of the October 23rd meeting. Can I get a resolution to adopt those and approve those minutes? Second?
Second.
Okay. Jasmine Higgins and Mr. Nigro have introduced the resolution. Are there any comments, changes, additions to the minutes? Hearing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Any noes? Hearing none, they're adopted. The next section is our public comment section. I would ask anybody who wants to make public comments to step up and introduce yourself. And I would ask that we keep our comments to 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Carolyn Keith. I'm with Pine Hills Neighborhood Association. I'm here to speak regarding a letter that we sent to the authority last week expressing to the University of Albany's desire to purchase Centennial Hall. I believe you will all have gotten it, but I have copies here for each of you. And for the record.
Carol, they got it.
Oh, they have, okay, good. We recognize that this building was designed to be college housing, and we support that its use as that, continuing in that way. We do want as many properties as possible to return to the tax rolls, and there have been some neighbors who've expressed concern about it not becoming market rate, but as a neighborhood association, we recognize that the university is a really good partner, and we know that they will be a really good owner of this property. And we have, the university has been very supportive of the city as well as the neighborhood, excuse me, and we think that they will be a good steward of the property. So we wanted to express our wholehearted support for this purchase.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who are wishing to speak?
I guess I'll say something.
No.
Well, you've run out of tickets.
So,
Oh, there you go. I mean,
I'll start by
Your time is up.
I will start by thanking you, Mr. Chairman, you, Mr. Vice Chairman, the board, the staff, the consultants, everyone who has taken us to this point and done all of this outreach and gathering all this information. I'm very much looking forward to reading the report. Talked with Rick a bit about what's in there and not in there, trying to get what I think is good in there. But by and large, I'm very happy with the process that we've had. As we go forward from here, we now have a plan. And during this time, I've been talking with who I hope will be our collaborators during the next phase of that plan. And I got a gift today for most of the board members. I don't think I gave you one, Alice. So one of the collaborate buttons to someone most of us know has been going around town handing out these and trying to encourage people to work together. And you've got a lot of people around outreach and a lot of people working together. Testament the Pine Hills neighborhood coming in here to offer support for things rather than criticism for things. You've done a good job. And so I just want to say thank you. And I'm looking forward to the next phase and collaboration to make Mass Street wonderful, to make the chapel wonderful, to make this campus work. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Speak at every meeting.
Every single meeting from the first. And I was lobbying for it for months before we did have it.
Thank you. Okay. Yes, Mr. Rizzo.
I'm Susan Rizzo, the Albany County Controller. I just, again, accolade that you guys are doing a great job
And as the Albany County Controller, I just want to make sure I'm in the loop, especially about transferring funds. I talked to Mr. Goldman, but I want to make sure that Albany County realizes that I need to be in the loop. I know you're taking steps. I just want to put that on the table. And also that the appraisal for Centennial Hall, I understand we have an offer for $12 million and the appraisal came at 13.6 million. And I hope the board addresses why we're accepting an offer that's less than the appraisal. That's all I have.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if you will, I would like to acknowledge the presence at today's meetings of Gerard Marino, who's the controller at the University of Albany, and he's also the executive director of the Empire Commons Student Housing Corporation, which is the entity that will be negotiating with to finalize the sale of Centennial Hall. So Gerard, anything you'd like to say?
We really look forward to working on the sale. We appreciate the partnership, and we think it's going to be a really good activity.
And Gerard, would you like to tell everyone where you did your undergraduate work?
College of St. Rose. So it's a surreal feeling to be back in this building. It's happy and sad at the same time. But just a little about Empire Commons Student Housing Corporation. We started about 24 years ago. Its global member of the corporation is the university president, Dr. Rodriguez. We are premier housing. We have 1,200 beds on the uptown campus located across from the Albany Nano College. Those yellowish looking buildings on Fuller Road. So we have a lot of experience of successfully running housing at a higher level. And we hope this will be a very nice opportunity for our graduate students who we can't house right now. We have roughly about 150% capacity on the uptown campus. So we have roughly 4,000 plus grad students, most of them that are, don't have the opportunity. This is a really nice portfolio to add to college. So we really look forward to working through this business transaction.
Thank you, Gerard.
I guess that's the end of the public comment section. We'll move to item number 4. Amy?
Good morning, everyone. I'll start with just a few updates on the financials beginning on page 10. Year to date, Albany County has reimbursed us $2.3 million for expenses related to payroll and maintenance of the campus. Insurance, we are at $731,000 as of September. Payroll and benefits are $530,000. Another high line item is utilities at $501,000. Just a couple of updates. Going into next year, our first interest-only payment of roughly $2 million will be due in February on bonds. As buildings are sold off, of course, we will pay down principal with the proceeds from those sales. We've also rolled out a new employee handbook to all of the security maintenance staff. There's our hope that this will reduce the costs associated with payroll and overtime. Also, our Director of Facilities, Joe, and his team will begin to walk the buildings weekly to make sure that everything is in working order in regards to heating, to plumbing and so forth. And the last item is at our meeting next month, our audit firm Bonadil will present their engagement letters and their audit plan to begin work on the 2025 audit early next year.
Did you say that? I'm sorry, did you say that will be at our next meeting?
Yes, Bonadil will present the audit
Okay,
plan.
okay, thank you.
And so what date is that? That's December, sorry, to put you on the spot. December 12th or something?
11th.
11th, that is.
And last,
Thursday, the 11th.
and the last item to note is that I did upload the 2026 budget to the budget office parish reporting system by the deadline of October 31st.
Thank you. CEO report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here this morning, and thanks to members of the public. We've got a lot of business to cover today, but maybe, listen, I think I'd rather turn this over to the chairman to introduce our consultants. This has been a long, a short process, but those of us involved, feels long, 3 public meetings and so on, but we're now at that point. Mr. Chairman, anything to preface?
No, I would just want to thank everyone, the public, consultants, the staff, interested parties, all worked very hard to produce a report as quickly as I think any report of this magnitude has been done. I know the midnight oils have been burning and the emails have been burning and everything else, but I'm very, very happy. I'm proud of where we are today with this submission of this report. And everyone, especially Kevin and Dylan and his staff, put so much time and effort into this and try to be very inclusive and get things in good shape. So with that, Rick, I'll let you take off with the presentation and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Yeah.
For technology.
Technology is great when it works.
It's the buildup, you know?
Yeah. Technology works. So this is a high level discussion. I'm going to move over here a little bit, mainly because I complained last time I was at this meeting. Couldn't hear me. I'm a low talker, so I need to get closer than you.
That's a mistake.
We provided the board a draft report roughly 12 days ago. They did great work in the staff reviewing the report, and we've provided a final report based on the comments that we've received to date. It's been a lot of work in a short period of time, as Kevin and Nick have said, but I think that the result is a pretty good report and a good roadmap or playbook for shaping what's next. I'm going to go pretty high level here. This is the way the report is broken down, so introduction, but the vision and redevelopment recommendations are the result of the demographic and market analysis that we've done in that. That is including Cressa, our partner in this. Community and stakeholder engagement, also our partner Margaret in River Street Planning and EDR. And then existing conditions, which Matt is going to speak to in a few minutes. And that's what culminated in our ultimate recommendations. So some of the reason that we had a draft report and then a final report, we didn't have all of that stuff in the big bubble complete and to the board before we issued the draft report. We had the skeleton framework, but we didn't have all that data. So we've added that data in a format that I think is readable, justifiable, and builds the case for the recommendations. We had that all in our head, but we worked to get that on paper. So Matt, I'm gonna let you take it from here.
Okay. This is news to me that I'm speaking right now. So I'll do my best.
So you have visible on your feet.
So we'll see. So the heat map, we've talked a lot about the heat map. This was our first pass at assessing the condition of the buildings, and their potential for reuse, their value to the community, and their adaptability. A lot of that was formed from the condition assessment. So this is one of the appendices that's the condition assessments that we've done with a walkthrough of every building. We've got a 2-page condition assessment followed by a 2-page photo spread here that you will get later. So the next version of the heat map is a deeper dive into the potential for the reuse of these buildings and how they fit in with different potential uses. Our original scope, we were going to propose 3 potential uses for each building. So this starts to form that, and that then forms the mapping of the campus for where the different areas are proposed to be. We could go pretty deep on this or more high level. Like Rick said, let's stay with high level at this point. But for each of the buildings, we're looking at traditional criteria, which include the reuse and adaptability of the buildings, the construction remediation needs. Some of the buildings need extensive construction to get them usable going forward. Operational sustainability, economic viability, and then we've got some value-based criteria which include architectural significance and cultural and community value. So through sort of a complex scoring criteria, we went through as a team and ended up ranking each of the buildings for 3 potential uses: for mixed use, recreation, single family and multifamily residential, higher education, arts, community and government services, retail and professional services, office, and K-12 education. So I think on the next slide, we're going to see these are how each of the buildings score. The top 3 are shaded in green. Of course, the number 1 shaded in the dark green.
So this is all in the report.
Yeah, right. So this forms what I believe is on the next slide coming into.
So there's 2 pages because there's 72 buildings. There's significant work that went into all the evaluations, and so there's 2 pages of that. And then that results in what I shared at the 3rd public meeting, basically coming up with what we loosely call, not from a zoning standpoint, but from a use standpoint, we've taken to call them districts. So starting at the bottom left, ignore the. Let's see if we can get this to work. Yeah. These are. Somebody made the suggestion. If anyone that was at the public meeting knows that I had all the things that are now labeled owner occupied. That was labeled single family. It was just a misnomer for me. It's owner occupied. It could be residential, 1 or 2 family, or it could be mixed use, a service company, an attorney, an insurance type of organization that could own the 1st floor, rent the 2nd floor for residential use. The Mastery Building should continue to be the Arts District. The 3 buildings here, 3 buildings, 1000, Huther, and Hearst Building, all being government service. The Centennial Hall, which we have heard, is going to be acquired by SUNY Albany. And then the Interfaith Sanctuary. And then we have a lot of yellow. Those are all owner occupied, mixed and/or mixed use. I had left out the top corner here. That's the security building. That that suits itself well for professional services or even a commercial space. There's parking there, it's gated, that's a nice facility for somebody that wants to have an office with parking. Then we move over to the where we had all the concepts that build on each other, from very simple to more in depth. Those are just concepts that we came up with. We recommend that a developer really come in, a group of developers, and we pick the best one to go forward with from there. Green space is an important component that we heard from the public. This area here will be enhanced, refined. You'll note that this area is all parking right now. Some of that may stay as parking, but we denoted that as green space. And then the recreation and senior center, which is the Helen Library and the events and athletics center. That's a good use for that facility. And then we have educational use. We've gotten some significant interest from, I'm not going to name them, but there's been several private and public institutions that have indicated interest in both of those facilities. And then we close with this building, the Lally building. There's been interest in developing a relationship with a local healthcare system. And they want to use it for a nursing school. And that we find that that's a good use for this facility. There's also been some emergency services, private emergency services that have looked at least one floor of this building for potential lease. The problem with that, is we all know, is I don't think the land authority wants to be in the building ownership business forever. So that if we lease any, that could complicate things. That's something that we got to work out down the road. But one of the board members, and it was relayed to us last Thursday, said this is actually the meat of the report, and they were right. We had it as one of the components of the report. This is what should guide you in terms of future decision making. One of the things that I'm concerned about, and we don't say this in the report, but I want to say this here, is the owner-occupied residential or mixed-use component. There has been some interest in acquiring some houses, and I would just say, after looking at all of the buildings, all these individual houses, there is significant the external structure looks fine, and it is fine. We don't need to rebuild foundations or re-side or re-roof these places, but there's significant interior renovation required. The bathrooms are not designed for single family or one or two family residential. The rooms are all split up. In a dining room, you have a wall right down the middle, and then it's split into two dorm rooms. There's, in my experience, it's probably $125 to $150 a square foot to renovate that space. And anyone that's done a kitchen or a bathroom in the last little while in your own house, it's fairly expensive.
Question. If those are the buildings that I'm thinking of, given your estimates to renovate them, would the land be more valuable or something to be built in?
It could be. That's why we recommended some what we've taken to calling it is selective removal as opposed to demolition. But I think that if we start in this northeast corner, we may find that we can sell some of these residences, some of the houses that were dorms or school offices. That was something that we heard from the community that was really important to them, is that we don't just clear cut and start over. We use these facilities as much as possible. I do know on the north side of Western, this area right here, right next to the parking lot, right across from the entrance to the Lally building. This area right here, we've gotten interest from another party to take that block. And something that we've heard from the board is maybe we don't look at selling 52 individual houses. We look at selling 5 in a block, 5 or 6 in a block. And the ones that are most conducive to that are right here and right here, because there's 5 or 6 houses right in a row. That's what we start with. But the ones along Madison here, especially this stretch before the sanctuary, with the exception of this, just like 3 houses put together into a dorm. Those houses are of nice architectural character. They fit the neighborhood. They're very attractive houses. Just the renovate. I'm just concerned about the renovation. I'm just pointing that out. Not saying that we don't want to sell them, but that really comes in this next phase. Is what do we actually do with these houses, and how do we market it? Because if you want to sell them for some amount of money, there's going to be significant improvements that are necessary, and it may be in a negative equity situation, and we don't want to put any homeowner in that. So it's just something that we need to consider, or you need to consider as you look at this down the road. Thank you. So these are some of the options. We've taken out any discussion of roundabouts. We heard that one loud and clear. We've talked about enhancing the walkability. So we talk about some wider sidewalks. Right now, the sidewalks along Madison and Western are 5 foot, just fine for the city, but having them be 10 foot, having them be wider, adding another set of flags, sidewalk sections are called flags, adding another section of sidewalk, at least on the inner ring of the campus. So on the north side of Madison and on the south side of Western, we think would be a good idea. That's something that we gotta talk about with the city. We gotta make sure that's okay. But remember, this is all about taking a campus that looked inward and having it be outward to the community. So we want to activate that green space. We want to make sure that people in the community can use that green space. So that's really what we're talking about. Remember, in concept 1, it was we're not taking down any buildings, that we're not selectively removing any buildings, leaving everything the same, maybe expanding the green space a little bit, and that's really it. The board asked us to look at keeping the campus as a campus, so we've looked at that. I'm not going to get into, well, I'm going to say it right now, but I'm not going to get into the details of Alumni Hall and Lima Hall. They're up in this corner, and they really frame the rest of the concepts because they're not really readily adaptable for reuse buildings. They are 1960s, 1970s era dorm buildings with block walls, with central corridors, gang bathrooms. It's just not designed it's designed for its intended purpose, which was dorms. It's not designed for adaptive reuse. And we've heard from several people, including internally, but also we heard this from developers. We had a sense even before we met with developers, but we met with 10 developers. We've met with 2 in the past week, so now 12 developers that have indicated they'll take those buildings and they'll tear them down. They don't want to reuse that building, those buildings, but they're very interested. It's about 8 acres, this area here. And this area, from the north side of the green space up to Western and over to Partridge, there's about 8 acres there. And every developer we spoke with said, we can do something with that 8 acres. That's consistent with the community, that returns, they need to see some economic value. So they want to see some return on this. But we recommend that some of these buildings that are either in talks or have had some discussions about being sold to whether they be public, quasi-public, or private entities, we let that play out, because that is the driver of retiring the debt. And this will be an enhancement to, I think, the campus, but I don't think it'll be a driver to retiring the debt. So we need to try and retire the debt before we do this. This will bring economic value to a potential developer, but it's not going to be sold for significant dollars by the land authority to the developer.
What is development consistent with the community?
Means senior housing, it means retail on the first floor, some kind of apartment style or townhome style structure. There could be some small individual buildings that are single family residential, but it'll all be outward facing. So it wouldn't be digging out, selectively removing those houses and then putting in a big parking lot.
I think to build on what Mr. Nigro asked you, Kevin, what our plan is going forward. That's how we will develop that.
So, this is really, a starting point here, and, how this all plans out will be in large part dependent on, the interest from the marketplace, and, balanced against this plan here. But I think we should just let Rick go through all the options.
Yep.
This is one of several that he's got, and maybe Rick, if you could move it
Yep,
along a little
yep.
bit.
Sorry. One of the things that we did for each of the concepts, that this was a suggestion of the board and staff, is come up with some pros and cons, advantages, disadvantages to each concept. I'm not gonna read these, but they're in the report. And I do wanna flip it to Mike here to talk a little bit more about a couple of the concepts that are now further.
Sure, and I'll kind of keep it moving with it, Kevin. I mean, I think when we really began to look at concepts 2, 3, 4, and 5 on here, it maintained some of the pieces. It maintained green space, it maintained a walkable campus. One of the things that you will, there, we've incorporated a walkway, a green sort of spine that connects Madison and Western, just to break down that block a little bit. You can also see what we've begun to do. We've begun to look at this northeast corner, this 8 acres that Rick talked about, that could become future housing. Again, it could be senior housing, market rate housing, everything that we've heard from the community, we've really tried to maintain. And all the developers really showed some interest in potentially developing that. The other thing you'll see on here is this word performance pavilion. Maybe the word performance gazebo makes some sense, but the idea of activating that space could be music, could be a jazz quartet on a Monday night there, but a way to really begin to try and activate that green space and begin to bring some people out into the area. This, we think the sort of balance with this is, by developing that northeast corner, it begins to return some of those properties to the tax rolls, and that's what we've heard a lot from the community. We want to be able to bring some of these properties back to the tax roll. We also think this is a nice partnership with educational, public, and private users. You've heard about the University of Albany. We know there's some public interest in some of the buildings, and now this brings in private development and some private users and some private money, and then return some of those properties back onto the tax rolls. I'm going to move along to concept 3, very similar to the previous concept. Again, we're expanding that green space. That's been important to us. We're looking at some of these parking lots that maybe don't need to be quite as big. We don't need as much parking, and maybe there's an opportunity to bring some green space back to the neighborhood and make it a more walkable, livable community. You can also see that we've continued to sort of spine that connects through. We like the idea of connecting Madison up to Western, connecting through that green space and making a nice sort of walkway that connects both parts of the neighborhood. And you can also see we've continued to explore some ideas on what we might do with that northeast corner. And again, it's very similar in terms of how it begins to organize itself. It could be a series of different housing configurations. That's really what we've continued to hear, and how that might begin to unfold and develop. I think a lot of the same goals: maximizing open space, advancing environmental goals, creating some flexibility in terms of what we do there, and again, returning some of these properties back to the tax rolls. And again, I think we've tried to be very selective about demolition, selective removal. I won't use the word demolition. We try to leave that word out of it, but selective removal, because we've heard from the community, we don't want you to go in and just take everything down. So we try to be very selective about what comes down, and then what that might be responsive to in terms of the development. Concept 4 is very similar to the other concepts, gets a little bit more granular in terms of what we're potentially doing on this northeast corner. You can also see this green space. We've tried to create a nice walkway through there. At one time, there was a fountain there, kind of like the roundabouts. The fountain went away at the same time. The roundabouts went away, and we incorporated what might be more of a sitting, a plaza, green space in there. Again, a place to gather. When you look through the book, there's a couple of images and renderings that we've created. The idea of creating maybe a farmer's market and creating some activity in that green space. So, as Rick said, formerly it was insular to the campus. Now we're trying to flip that narrative and make it more connecting to the campus. Maybe we should go on to concept 5. Concept 5 is probably the most, I guess, sort of the largest build out that would reflect on a potential property. Again, really reflects the build out of this corner potentially, maybe opening it up from Western and Partridge as you look into the site, maybe bringing the site with some housing. Again, we're not sure how much parking we'll have to remove. I guess it'll ultimately depend on how much parking requirements are there, but what we'd like to do is get as much green space in there as we could, and then again, continuing to keep that spine that connects across the campus. These are just a few images. You get a little sense. These are a couple of the renderings. We started to, we populated it with a lot of people, but you get the general sense of what they're doing. If this was, I guess this is sort of the corner looking back into the site. This is the event center. This is the Hellman Library. This is what right now is parking. We're talking about making green space. This could be housing off to the side. One of the things that you can see we've talked about doing is integrating some what could be retail space on that first level, again, to break it up, and then a couple of levels above that with some housing. You can see that spine we sort of talked about through here. A walkway, a pedestrian plaza, a pedestrian walkway, could have a garden in there, could have some benching in there. Again, trying to reactivate this green quad space. You'll see a sense of a gazebo there. Again, trying to bring people out, trying to create some sense of activity, and trying to really refocus on using that space. Through this spine, Madison would be down at this end, connecting through. Western is up at this end, the existing Hellman Library, and then just no real design, but just sort of a placeholder of what could ultimately be some housing in that block. And what we've begun to show is how we might be able to integrate some farmers markets and begin to get some public interest in utilizing that space. Back to you.
Okay. Let's skip over this one. So when we one of the things, there was two main things that when we met with the staff of the land authority, they said, we need to retire the debt, and that needs to be a focus. And then we need an implementable plan. So we gave you a roadmap, playbook, but we think that it is also implementable. We have several, whether they be private entities or public entities, nonprofit, county use. We have a lot of discussions happening, not behind the scenes, but behind the scenes of the preparation of this report. We have a lot of ongoing discussions that I think are gonna come to fruition in the next 60, 90 days. I don't know the time frame exactly, but that is gonna then drive any redevelopment on campus, because then we have some confidence from the private sector to reinvest in this neighborhood because there's public uses and there's activity on site. That is a primary driver. So as we look at a perfect scenario, we'd like to see this private development happen before, but it's not the way it works. We need to see public activation, and then we follow with private investment. And if there's commitment by this organization, the county, and all the other public entities, SUNY, that will activate this site, that drives the private development. We have a section in the report about grant funding. It's all in there. And we have a very large appendix. That's only one part of it. That's why I didn't print it all out. We have a summary of all the public comments, all the public meetings. We have a summary of all the meetings that we've had with developers. Some of that stuff, we've tried to make it ambiguous or private. So we've blacked out some of the names, but we don't want to put that out in the public realm. But it's all in there. Frankly, what we're just trying to do is organize it so that it follows along with this report. And that's why it's not here today. We have all the information. It's just putting it together. And that's it.
Thank you, Rick. I really again want to thank you and everyone for all the hours that have been put in to get this report here today. I will comment on the taxability of the houses. I think there's opportunity with the homes to renovate them, put them back on the tax rolls, the ones that many of whom we've identified. There's opportunities through grants, through apprentice programs with local unions and things of that nature to try to redevelop them for low and moderate income home ownership, owner occupied, which would be our goal. And I have talked to a couple of organizations, and there's a lot of interest in it. And I think if we package them properly and price them properly, we can be successful in that area. Just my own personal opinion and experience, but I think there's a lot of interest in people living them, taking ownership. Just how we price them and what opportunities, grants, and things that we can provide people to.
And thanks for bringing that up, Nick. I did one side of that equation.
I know. I'm not talking to you. I'm just commenting. But I want to, and the whole thing, the development that we're talking about, would again generate a great deal of tax base and interest. And tax basis is not property taxes and sales taxes and those types of things if we have good retail and so on and so forth. And this is an anecdotal, not trying to be funny, but we had great attendance at our three public meetings. And I had the opportunity to get comments from three former residences of Lima Hall. And these are ladies of the cloth, I would say, retired, former sisters of St. Joseph of Carondelet, who lived in the houses, and then when Lima Hall was built, they were moved out of the houses, and their comment was, "You can't take that down fast enough." Their memories were not good. It's just the way.
You know,
That's the truth.
you know, I would, honestly, there was a lot of interest in this.
If I understand, if you expect people to, oh my God, I lived there, nostalgia, there was no nostalgia.
Yeah, you've gone through the buildings, they have limitations, but there was a tremendous amount of interest from developers and
Yes.
other parties in redeveloping.
I mean, it's the timing, how we lay it out, what we do to get it ready for sale, et cetera, for development. I mean, that's all negotiated.
Well, and I think Rick also made the point, which I think was an interesting one, that they're also interested in the public being part of this campus. They don't want to be the only one doing it. I think there's a synergy that happens when all of this kind of comes together that can be really.
And I agree, and I
Strong.
think one of the steps to that is the resolution we're going to entertain this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, just, just generally speaking, I just like to remind everybody, what you've accomplished on this board since inception. This organization started in October 2024, and, you've done quite a bit of work and accomplished quite a lot since then. Not the least of which being getting the county up on this campus, getting people in these buildings, which is the single best thing we could have done to stop the decay and degeneration of these buildings and of this neighborhood, which, as we know, has happened in other places where buildings have just remained vacant. The main takeaway that I get from this plan here is, and again, let's just be candid about it, this is a plan. I guarantee you, this is not what's going to happen exactly on this campus. There may be some elements of option 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, or in different parts of the campus. I'm pretty confident because I think it's been sensitivity tested by our consultants with local investors and developers around our community. But the real work starts now. Now we go out and start making some changes. But the biggest thing that this plan says to me, when this was a college, it was focused internally. It was kind of an insular kind of piece of real estate. They didn't really want the kids out, and didn't want the community coming in for the general town and down friction that my chairman has lived through in some of his past lives. But what this does is this opens up this piece of real estate to the community. This will not be the place that people don't go anymore. People will be free to, come walk your dogs here and pick up after you, we hope, but and really access this community, this neighborhood in a very vibrant, dynamic way. That's the thing that gets me excited about this. You have the ability to really change this neighborhood for the better. And as we all know, this is going to be done in a completely transparent and open fashion. We've got input from the community. I'm sure we will hear further input from the community in addition to Mr. Wallner, but certainly if not from him. But it's a starting point. We have some resources that we can bring to bear to help develop this. We have our IDA, we have the Alliance, and this is what we do at the Alliance. We are what I call pre-developers. We're not developers per se in the sense that they are private parties, that we're private developers, but we make sites ready for developers to get sites attractive to developers to come in and develop to the benefit of the community. One last point on the tax exempt issue here. For some parts of the last 100 years, these properties had never been on the tax roll. And what we have, and the thing that Rick and Mike and Matt have, kind of drilled home to me, is that many of the buildings on these campus, including the one we're sitting in right now, are what is known in the real estate industry as special purpose buildings. That means that these buildings are not easily convertible into other uses. They were built for a single specific purpose, like the Mastery Performing Arts Center, the Events and Athletic Building, and this one here. And so when you understand that and you factor that in, it is probably most likely that these special purpose buildings are going to go to nonprofit entities, higher education, healthcare, and the like. So fortunately, we have other parcels of property on the campus that, as Mike was talking about, the 8 acres down on the northeast campus, northeast part of the campus, can be open to private development. So there's going to be a mix. These big buildings like this, in my opinion, is probably unlikely that these are going to be bought and developed as private for-profit uses. They just don't lend themselves to that kind of development. But the rest of the campus, there are significant parcels where we can do that, and not the least of which is housing and 55 plus and related houses. So I think the real work not the real work, but the next phase of our work starts right now. The chairman has made it very clear to me, as the county executive, on several occasions, most recently as this morning, that they want to see this part of the project get out of the gates really quickly. And fortunately, we've got many of you sitting around the table have direct knowledge and experience in both public and private developments. So the staff will be working with you very closely. I think we're off to a good start here, and certainly the potential sale of the Centennial Hall to the University of Albany is a great start, and hopefully we'll see the sale, some other public sales coming up in the very near future. So that concludes my comments on it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any members of the board want to weigh in?
I would just like to say thank you to the consultant team, to all of you for your hard work. This was a tight timeline, and this plan and the playbook is very impressive, so thank you.
I want to add something. Just as we were working on this project and started going through it, it sort of became apparent to us that the answer to this, and you alluded to it, Kevin, is in your community, right? The answer to solving who goes into these buildings, who are the private developers, how do we utilize this? It's all in the community that you're in. And you're seeing all your community partners, hence the university, coming to the table. So those are the people that are going to really help make this a success. And it's all of you that are in the neighborhood that have helped with this as well. So I do think it is really, it's been wonderful to see the community step up on the public side, on the private side, and really show that excitement and ambition. But that's where your answer is. It's right here in the community that you're in.
So, certainly it's our intent to keep moving quickly, as we can. We do have that $35 million that we want to retire, and I'm optimistic that we're going to get there soon. Thank you.
So the next item, Mr. Chairman, is the 90-day statement for Centennial Hall, and there's an action for your consideration here, and I'll turn that over to our general counsel, Tom Owens, to walk us through the resolution, which I'm sure you've all had a chance to take a look at already. So
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, board and visitors. So I'm just going to briefly summarize the resolution. Starts on page 11, and there's an appraisal in here as well, so it goes through page 80. Is this? I believe it's 80. Is this particular item on the agenda? So this is resolution 2025-1101, and it authorizes two actions on the part of the authority. One is to negotiate and execute a purchase and sale agreement with the Empire Common Students Housing Incorporated. That's the nonprofit corporation affiliated with the University of Albany that we discussed in the beginning of the meeting. This purchase and sale agreement is still subject to board approval at a subsequent board meeting and resolution. So while this authorizes the negotiation and execution, it does not allow or authorize the transfer of the property. And then the second item of this authorization, board authorization, would be to authorize the authority to issue what's known as the 90-day statement, which I think most people who've talked about this a number of times understand. But basically, when you enter into a transfer of property with a single party, the Public Authority Law 2897 section requires that you issue this 90-day statement, and it is addressed to a variety of entities, really at the state level. We provide copies to all of our county stakeholders and partners of that statement as well, but that's also included in this package. So the resolution goes through some history as to how the legislature established the authority. It talks about the particular powers and authorities. It talks about the fact that the county has entered into an ops funding agreement and a financing agreement, pursuant to which the county actually has signed up to back the issuance of the bonds that we all remember were issued in the earlier part of this year, as the chair has just mentioned, $35 million worth. And the county, the operations funding agreement also has backed our operations as an authority. And again, those are financial covenants that are extremely important to this authority. It goes through the specific enabling legislation sections that authorize the transfer of property in the resolution by the authority. And then it gets specific to the property, which is what's formerly known as Centennial Hall, probably still known as the Centennial Hall, with the former College of St. Rose, approximately 94,000 square foot improvement, built as a dorm, operated as a dorm, 66 units. There is an appraisal that goes through with a larger and more detailed description of the property in your package. And then the appraisal is referred to as well, as the county controller has already mentioned. The appraisal came in at $13.6 million, and that's as of November 1st, 2025, the date of value. That's the appraiser's estimate, and she would be the first to tell you it's an estimate of fair market value at this time. And it talks about the authority now considering, again, this is a consideration, it's not an approval, the sale of that property to the affiliate, the nonprofit corporation associated with the University of Albany for a purchase price of $12 million. And that's the basics of this authorization, and the enabling sections at the end of it basically allow staff, the board officers, and the CEO to take actions to implement those two aspects: negotiate, execute a purchase and sale agreement, and then to issue the 90-day letter. So subject to any questions of the board, that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I will note that, when we look at appraisals, in my personal opinion, they're a guide. I want, just for the record, remind people that St. Rose College was $55 million in bonded debt at a bankruptcy hearing. We bought this at a significant discount. We paid $35 million when it was roughly $55 million. So there was, when you look at appraisals, you have to also look at this more or less. We did not pay $55 million, but we paid $35 million. So there's somewhat, a little bit of a discount. I don't know what you want to call it. I think it's very reasonable and very fair. This project, if you look at this, we're going to bring in a couple hundred students, graduate students, very attractive populace that we would love to have here living in the community. And $12 million is 1/3 of our $35 million. That's a pretty good start for what we're trying to do. So I am certainly, I want to also acknowledge that County Executive McCoy and myself and Kelly were very involved in meeting with the college and negotiating, and the college negotiated very fairly at the table. I want that to be recognized. Very cooperative and helpful. And looking forward to that. I am certainly supportive of this resolution. Sarah?
On that note, I do want to, Ms. Rizzo,
you brought in public comment, your hope that we have a justification for the discrepancy between the appraisal and the offer price. And just pointing out on page 17 in the explanatory statement, under section 2, the first paragraph does have a little bit of a description of the justification for disclosing the property via this negotiation. And rather than really looking for myself, rather than really looking at it like a discount, it is the community benefit that a transaction of this type would bring. I think two principles really come to mind. One, vacancy breeds vacancy. And so the quicker we can have active uses in any space on this campus, the better, to be able to open the market up for the balance of the buildings. And then also an institutional anchor is priceless for revitalization and redevelopment. And so to have an institution like the University of Albany anchoring the campus, really using the building for what it was really used for, I think those are community benefits that help to offset the financial value of the transaction. And so to me, those are helpful justifications for looking at holistically the transaction. I look forward to talking to the board about it in the future when we discuss the purchase and sale, knowing that this is just a 90-day statement to be able to get out there. So just my 2 cents on
Thank you.
value.
Very good remarks. Thank you so much. John?
Appraisals are great, but the real value of property is what the seller is willing to sell for, and the buyer is willing to invest. So we have a buyer at the table, and that's where
Subject to any other comments, Mr. Chair? Any more comments?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I just, we have a resolution, and thank you, Mr. Owens, for fine preparation. I do want to note, it starts on page 11 in your packets, that Danielle is not present. The resolution says she is. So we need to note that.
We'll modify the.
We'll note that if we need to amend it, or just, how would you like to handle that, sir?
It's amended right now as we're doing, because you're gonna call a roll for it. You're-
Okay, all right, I just wanted to note that.
Your stupid attorney assumes everybody's gonna be in every meeting.
Well, that's good assumption. So I would ask for someone to move to put the resolution on the table. Jasmine?
It's there right out.
Ms. Higgins? Ms. Higgins? And Ms. Reginelli? We have an introduction and a second. Any further comments by members of the board? Hearing none, this does require a roll call vote. And I am voting yes. Mr. Nigro?
yes, and Tom, you can have a comment for the way something.
Yes, sir. Mr. Nigro, I just wanted to make it known that he did make a donation a long time ago for this building to the college, if I believe that's true, right? Mr. Nigro, for Centennial Hall to be developed and constructed. He certainly has no financial interest remaining in that property, but he thought he wanted. And I advised him he didn't have to make that comment, but he wanted it out there as public.
Well, I didn't finish, I want to get a refund.
That's really what we're looking for.
We're looking for 1.6 here. Thank you, sir.
And that was decades ago, but yes.
Mr. Nigro is a yes. Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
Ms. Reginelli?
Yes.
Ms. Higgins?
Yes.
Ms. Melendez is excused, and Ms. Clino.
Yes.
Resolution passes. 6 yes, and 1 excuse. The next item on the, I thank everyone for their support. That's the
What happens now?
90-day period.
90-day period.
And
And we've actually started the Empire Commons Housing Corporation has designated an attorney, and our attorneys are going to be meeting with Paul and Tom. I don't know if you've actually had any conversations yet, but that's all going to start very quickly, and hopefully we can get a purchase and sale agreement, the related documents put together quickly and agreed to, so that as if and when as the 90-day statement expires, the board can then act as they so choose to do.
the deal is hard.
Yeah, as part of it is without a signed purchase sale agreement.
Right, all it does is gives notice of the public authority. And then it gives us the ability to start negotiating and come back in order for the approval of the ultimate agreement and the conveyance.
But it is as solid as anything could be at this point.
And Paul also is working on, as he is with some of the other properties, on the kind of, the rationalizing of the tax maps as that kind of would be over the course of the college's development. So, we'll make sure we have the properties delineated appropriately so that we can do a good conveyance. So the next item here is a request for you to ask if to enter into discussions with Albany County for the management of the campus. Just a little background, what we at the authority have been doing is really been a stopgap method. When the college ran this campus, they had 25 to 30 people doing maintenance around this campus. We have 2. We knew that going in, and we knew that there were some issues with the buildings and some of the operating systems. They're old, and there's been some deferred maintenance over the last several years as the college's financial condition worsened. But what we have is we have a very capable and able property management group in our county government. So we talked to the county; they'd be interested in negotiation. But what I'm asking is for your approval to let me negotiate a contract with the county for the management. The ultimate agreement will be brought back to the board for their approval. And Tom has drafted a resolution here to do so. Anything else, Tom, you want to point out about the
No,
resolution?
again, the resolution goes through sort of the statutory authority. I would point out that in our naming legislation, the county is specifically and explicitly referenced several times. And one of those matters is the authorization for us into what are called joint service agreements with the county. The legislation recognized the specific and special relationship that this authority has with Albany County. So that's what the resolution provides. It's all laid out in the sections that I cite. And this authorizes the chair and the officers, the CEO, to basically negotiate and execute an agreement. You don't have to bring this back. So this would allow the board, the chair of the board, to get this going. I mean, as Kevin mentioned, the county has a lot more resources in this field of providing property maintenance. Snow removal is one. And the authority does have equipment, if we had more than 2 people, that would be useful to be used for maintenance, which we don't right now. So the county is very cost effective, and because they're paying the bills anyways, it's about as cost effective as you can get, manner in which to provide property management services for the authority. So that's what this resolution actually authorizes the chair and the chief executive to engage the county. And it would require insurance, indemnification provisions, and things which would be standard in the maintenance agreement, but this does authorize them to move forward on that. So, subject to any questions? That's it.
Hearing no questions, in your packet at page 81, the resolution is there. Again, I will note that this is a roll call vote, but Ms. Melendez has been excused. I would seek a resolution, someone to introduce the resolution. Ms. Walsh, second.
I'll second it.
We have an introduction and a second. Any discussion on the resolution at this point? Okay, hearing none, I will call for a vote. I am voting yes. Mr. Nigro?
Yes.
Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
Ms. Reginelli?
Yes.
Ms. Higgins?
Yes.
Ms. Melendez is excused. Ms. Polino?
Yes.
Passed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is there any other business before the board before we enter executive session? Hearing none.
Yes, sir.
Mr.
So
Owens, could you-
my understanding, the reason for the executive session would be for the board to discuss the potential disposition or sale of real estate, the publicity of which would substantially affect the value thereof.
Do you need a resolution then?
We would, first, a second, and a vote.
I need a first. Mr. Walsh. And a second, Ms. Reginelli. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. We launch for executive session. Any further discussion?